I'm back with episode 2, day 2. There are 4 days in total, but I've only talked about day 1 so far. In day 1 of my plant medicine ceremony, the first day that I took it, because I was there for 10 days, and I spent a few days there prior to the experience without actually taking it, so I can't say this is day 1 of me being at Rythmia, although those days were quite nice also. I mentioned those days within episode 1, and throughout the season so far, I've talked about my past life experiences, I've talked about traumas that have happened to me and how after overcoming or seeing through a trauma, my heart grew blue, like baby blue, because all I needed to do to clean up my heart, to heal it, was to get rid of a few little tiny sticky bits, black bits that were stuck on there. I've talked about throwing up on plant medicine and what that entails. But I haven't told you anything else just yet, I don't think. So let's go into this. I'm going to talk about day 2. And we were doing plant medicine for 4 days. But honestly, I'm not sure if I should divulge all of the days, all of the information, because a lot of it is just for me. It's just for me. And you've probably noticed by now that a lot of people who were in episode 1 and probably 2, I'm not too sure. The interview clippers is what I'm talking about. They haven't been showing up, have they, in the season? And it's quite tough to make these episodes as a continuous vlog because I couldn't catch up with them. In one case, at least. He left. He got what he needed. At least what he thought he needed. To see plant medicine and to see what was going on there. Then he left. So I literally couldn't show you more content. And there were some others who, like myself, they just needed to keep that stuff to themselves. And they didn't want to divulge the information on camera. The morning after, leading up into the ceremony, we went to a kind of, meeting of sorts, where we discussed our experiences to try and find out what happened to us, After the first day, a lot of us went through some weird stuff and we wanted some clarity. So we go to this place, right? And everyone is there, along with the shamans to the right. And then you got Jerry talking about what we're going through and how personal it is and how scary it can be sometimes to face these dark aspects of ourselves and what's actually going on to everyone when they're going around talking different languages and kind of crawling on the floor and just being completely out of it. He clarified, I gotta go back. There are a few intentions that we're told to have whilst we're taking the plant medicine. And one of which is heal my heart. Yeah, heal it. I got that on day 1. But everyone got a new heart. And I wanted a new heart. I wanted a new one. I didn't want my old one because my old one reminded me of my past. It reminded me of how damaged it was. And it was a constant reminder of pain, if I'm to be honest. I didn't like it. Even though it was clean and blue and lovely and it was in my chest, it was a reminder. Show me who I've become, give me a new heart. I think the other one is why am I here? And there was a fourth, connect me to my soul was the fourth one. I ended up experiencing in that moment what was known as trip envy. I wish I had what you had that night. A lot of us did. I mean, one person, she turned it into a butterfly. She had butterfly wings come out of her back. She didn't turn to an insect, but she had those wings and they were rainbow colored. She flew out of her bed and she was flying around the compound, the facility. That made a lot of people jealous. Not me on that night, because I went through some pretty heavy stuff too. But there were stories like that going around, and people catch wind of these stories. So going into the second ceremony, you can probably guess what I asked for, right? I asked for a new heart. So I take this plant medicine, knock it back, and then I lay down, and I came up with a system, a way of putting myself into a particular state where my body wouldn't panic and become anxious. Because when you're being told that you're going to throw up on plant medicine, a lot of people will become scared. That idea is in their head now. When you fear a substance, your body fears it too. And the body has this reaction where it wants to get it out of you. And so everyone is afraid of throwing up. They're afraid of what this plant medicine is going to do to them. They're afraid of crapping their pants. And they're expecting to throw up. It's a huge placebo in the sense that it really does shift you into a state where you're susceptible to throwing up. And so I'm laying there and I'm just telling my body, hey buddy, this is for your benefit. I love you. I take good care of you. And I use memories. I don't just say that and expect my body to believe me. I use memories of moments where I've taken my health into consideration, where I've done yoga, I put myself into a movement, and I've deliberately taken my time with my body parts in order to just to say, hey leg, this might be a bit uncomfortable, but I'm doing this for your benefit. We're gonna get rid of a lot of tension. Let's do this, okay? You can trust me. You're safe in my hands. And my body starts to relax and I can go into a deeper stretch. And so I applied that method to putting things into my body. Not only with things I used to be allergic to, but it's pretty smart, huh? But also with this plant medicine. So I'm saying this to myself, I'm doing this, and everyone's looking at me, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do my spiritual thing now before I take this plant medicine. And they're all doing meditations, and they're really into it. And for some reason, I gain attention with what I'm doing. I'm not saying it verbally, I'm going to take care of you, don't worry about it. I'm just thinking it, and I'm laying there, and putting my hands on my body parts, you know. As the days went on, they asked me what I was doing, because I only threw up once the entire time I was there, and that was because it was triggered by a trauma only. And so that started to get some people's attention. I said to them, a lot of you are stressing yourselves out. Your body predicts this outcome. And so it's fearing the substance, and you're less calm, you're more anxious, your body's gonna freak out. I'm not just saying this because it sounds logical and it sounds smart. I'm so in tune with how my mind thinks inside my body that I'm aware of what's going on. I can become self-aware of these influences, you know, which dictate the actions of my bodily functions. And so I say that to my friend Sean, and he starts doing it. You've seen him already on the series. And then I got up, took the medicine, laid down. My body was fine with it. It was cruising, right? It loved it. Then we got up, we did some rapé. Was that before or after? It might have been before. It's this thing that you get blown up your nose and it just opens everything in your head. And then there was a rocky moment where you just know that stuff's gonna hit you. It's this tone, this noise, and you're thinking to yourself, it's coming, it's coming, you know it's coming. You're kind of losing your mind a little bit in the sense of self. You're losing your sense of self. And then I just started seeing a bunch of patterns, sacred geometry. And I start thinking about the cockroach that I was resurrecting in my little humble abode. There's this thought in my head, at the time it was in my head, that I wasn't afraid of insects, you know, because I had this huge spider crawl in my hand when I was a kid. I was fine with it. I'm not afraid of insects, but a part of me always knew that I was still somewhat afraid of insects. When they run really fast, that freaks me out. Anything big with wings flying in my face, I'm out of the room, right? So I wouldn't tell anyone this, of course. But then after taking the plant medicine, I start feeling a presence behind the plant medicine, which was really cool. Because I was always on the fence on whether or not this substance had an entity behind it, or whether or not somebody or a group of people just made up that there was an entity behind it. Maybe they're projecting, they're mirroring themselves in that state, and it just feels and seems like there's a presence there. So I was kind of a bit anxious about whether or not that was going to be the case. I didn't want it to be something that is a figment of someone else's imagination. I wanted it to be the real thing, a real being, and that's what it was. I started noticing this being show up, and it just felt feminine. It felt like a female, and she was made out of sacred geometry, but she showed up like a mass at first. freaking mass. A mass of something right to my left whilst I'm laying there on my bed, and then the room disappears and turns into sacred geometry. The next thing I know, I'm standing there like this. She's like about 20 feet, maybe 30 feet away from me, right? And it feels like we're in some kind of dimensional corridor. Very high, purpley pink, and she's there at the end, this big mass. Only she's not a mass anymore. I can see her face. She looks like a giant cockroach. I can see these bulbous sea eyes with these yellow hard edges to them. It's weird, and it's strange to see something that you usually see so small close up like this. So big. You can see the hairs. You can see where the hairs go into the skin. You can see the exoskeleton. And all of this was happening whilst she was radiating this glow internally. It's like this yellowy, plasma-y, volcano-like glow internally. Down her arms, down her legs, through her eyes. And with that glow came a particular type of geometry. It was very subtle, but it just covered on top of her exoskeleton. She was laughing, not verbally. I couldn't hear her words, but I knew she was getting a kick out of freaking me out. But I'm not terrified. I'm on edge. There's some distance. I'm feeling good, right? I say to her, I'm just gonna go back. It's good, I get it. You're here to show me what I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of this. I'm fine, I'm good, I'm going back. I'm walking, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm actually being pulled towards her now. Okay? And she's laughing, feels like laughing. The closer I get, I'm getting closer. I don't want to see that. I turn my back, but I'm still moving towards her. At one point, I know she's behind me. She's like 8 foot tall, 5, maybe even 6 foot wide. And I see her arms like this, just in my peripheral. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to turn around. Turn around and look up at her. And I see her little, I think they call them mandibles? Pincers? I see inside her mouth. I see her nose. I see everything. And I laugh. It's kind of like when you're bugging somebody, right? No pun intended. And you just look at each other once you get to this level of frustration and anger, and you just laugh at each other, at the whole situation. It's just funny, it's just silly. And then with that, she let me go. I came to, and I started hearing people crying, yelling, laughing, swearing, and to my surprise, my eyes are closed. But I'm seeing all of this happen around me, and I can clearly see what looks like somebody doing this, right? With some kind of garment over them, cloth. I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, is this the shaman lady that's actually there physically? Am I seeing the astral states, of these shamans that are there to assist us? Like, what's going on here? So I open my physical eyes, and the shaman disappears. Close my eyes, and he's there again. And he's doing this. I can't see his features or anything. He's just a mass of darkness with a purple tint to him, and you can see hard edge. And he was doing this anytime I was feeling agitated, or uneasy. I could have sworn if I looked further to my left and right, into my peripherals, I could see other astral shamans doing healing work on other people there. And so it was nice to know that I was being worked on by so many beings, not only the beautiful people at Rythmia, the shamans that were helping me out, but also by these dimensional beings. And I started like really theorizing that maybe they were once alive, they were shamans, and these like ancestral shamans that somehow have come through this plant and they're helping us out. And that's pretty cool, right? It's kind of like T'Challa, Black Panther, when he takes that serum that makes him super powerful and he goes back to the astral plane to see his ancestors. The whole experience was really cool. And but I really wanted that new heart. So I kept asking, right? I still felt like I had that connection to the mother, and I said, hey, can I get a new heart? And I could feel her expression. It was like she was mad and kind of frustrated at the fact that she did so much for me already. Now you're asking for a new heart? What are you talking about? Get out of here. She said no. No, straight away. I was like, okay, cool. Can I get a new heart? And then I just kept saying it, like, can I get a new heart? You feel like a child when you're in these places, in this environment around people like this. You just feel like yourself. And so I'm like, can I get a new heart? And eventually she gives in. But not without deliberately setting this whole thing up so that I learned some kind of lesson. I look down at my body and I start seeing a whole bunch of insects, and these insects feel negative. Probably because they've been feeding negative energy off of other people within my environment. And they're all over me to the point where I can't actually see my body. I'm okay though, because I can sense that I still feel quite positive, and it's just coming from this kind of blanket of insects on top of me. And so they continue to travel up to the left side of my chest, and they actually eat away at my body. And they get into my heart, and they eat the entire organ. It's gone. I'm freaking out at this point. I'm like, is this gonna be it? Am I gonna have no heart? Like, why aren't they putting something back? The entire morning and afternoon of the third day, I could still feel these things inside me. I still feel like I had a void. It was gone. They had eaten the entire heart. And so that day I was on edge as well. I was freaking out. I was like, if I go home like this, what's gonna happen? I can't feel anything. I think the message that she was trying to imbue onto me was that if you go for what other people have, you're gonna feel empty. It's quite on the nose. I just let myself relax. Then I start getting the jolts again, the twitches, the movements. My hand comes up, follows down through the inside of my chest. My left hand comes up, follows down through, down my abdomen. And it keeps happening over and over again. And at this point, I'm getting closer and closer to the point of insanity because I'm experiencing this repetitive state.